Our first item is with our Municipal Services Committee, Chairman Ed Long. Ed, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. This is our first meeting since the chairman of the commissions were invited to attend, and I think that we've got a good turnout tonight with them, and if they would take a moment, I'd like for them to stand and introduce themselves. They don't have to come to the podium unless they just want to, but I'd like to go around the room so that everybody can know who our chairmen are. And it doesn't matter to me where you start, you guys flip a coin.
Good evening, I'm Gary Walker, Chairman of Cabot Water and Wastewater.
Thank you, Gary. Who do you have with us?
Tim Joyner, our General Manager, is here with us.
Thank you, Jim. Next. I'm Greg's here.
I'm Greg Sled, I'm Chairman of the Cabot Parks and Recreation Commission, and pleased to be here.
Thank you, Greg. Greg and I visited a little bit before the meeting. Glad to have you here as well. We have you ready to planning commission.
I'm here online.
There's Chad Young. He's the chairman of the planning commission. Chad, you want to say anything?
Hey guys, glad to be here.
The other commission that we've got would be A&P. Is there anybody here from A&P? And nobody's on Zoom for them. Okay, guys, listen. I, for one, want to thank every one of you for being here. I think this is great. I'd like for you to be here. You may not ever be called on for a thing, but if you're here and you are, great. But nevertheless, it does give us a little more of a idea of unity, and I like that. I like that a lot. It was Matt's idea. Matt occasionally does stumble upon an acorn, and I think he hit one this time. Matt, thank you. First item of business. Our first item of business is the appointment of Ashley Little to Parks and Rec Commission. Ashley is not going to be able to be here or be with us tonight on this. He had to take a run to Atlanta, so we're going to defer any action on this till the 22nd meeting, at which time it'll be brought up and action will be taken then. The next item is authorization to enter into agreement with Stevens regarding a potential bond offering presented by Mayor Ken Kincaid, and also Jack is here with Stevens. So, guys, it's up to y'all.
Jack, would you come on up to the podium, please? I asked Jack to kind of give us the overall of what we need to be doing for our next bond issue. And I'm going to turn the mic over to you, Jack.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you all hear me okay? The mask. It's on behalf of myself and my partner, Leanne Burnett. We were really excited about being here with you all for this opportunity to work with you again. You've got a chance to, as you all have done many times, and Mr. Long and I talked about this just a few minutes ago, you've done this in 2005, you've done it in 2013, that you've been able to restructure existing loans that you have and asked for the voters for authorization to rededicate the existing sales tax to generate additional project funds for project without increasing the taxes. And we're in an environment because of the COVID-19 environment that we're in, that interest rates are at very attractively low levels. And so this is an opportunity.
Hey Jack, could you pull the microphone out and talk into it? The people
sure.
on Facebook land can't hear you. We can hear you in here, but the people in the video.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, you all. So you have the opportunity to restructure your 13 issue and your 16 issue, and based on our assumption, raise a little over $56.5 million in new project funds that would be projected to be paid in full in the year 2039. Your current bonds are projected to be paid in full in the year 2025, so we're talking basically about a 13.5 to 14-year extension, assuming there's not any growth in your sales tax. And your sales tax over the last several years have grown each year, and in 2019 you had a very good year with your sales tax collections. So this is the chance to work on various projects. For those council members that were on the council back in 05 and 13, you have to, the voters have to vote on each project that you decide to go with, and the ones that are approved by the voters are the ones that you're able to proceed forward with. I brought kind of a timeline or a calendar. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to talk about that or it should be later. I'll yield to you, but basically we put together a timeline for the possibilities of a June election. which would have you all money the middle of September, and where you would be able to begin working on your projects.
Do you have a handout or anything you could give the council on that, Jack? And we were going to have town hall meeting starting on February 22nd. Above the items, I know I've sent council before, would be broadband for the whole town of Cabot, buying the fiber, and then leasing those out to another entity. We just had Senate Bill 74 go through. Brian Evans and Ricky Hill led that up, and it passed unanimously in both houses, waiting on the governor to sign. Also wanting to do some road improvements, some stuff for the animal shelter, some stuff for the police, community pavilion, just a whole lot of different things. Parks and Rec, I believe their top thing is a multi-use basketball, volleyball complex. But that's what we'd start on February 22nd, decide what questions we would put on that ballot that the citizens of Cabot need and want.
That's correct. And you can see this timeline. We've picked a day trying to coordinate around your all's meetings, and that April 5th would be the meeting where the tax and the special election ordinance is adopted by the city council. Once that is done, it has to be a certified copy, has to be of the adopted ordinance is filed with the county clerk's office and the election commission. And then that ordinance is published. And you can see that we have the election held on June the 8th, which has to be the second Tuesday of the month. And then the election results are certified by the election commission. And once that's done and you are successful, then we start working with the Friday firm on doing the preparation of the offering documents. And the first document that they would produce is what is called a preliminary official statement, which tells the story of the city of Cabot. And so we would put together a distribution list on who all wants to have input on this. The preliminary official statement is finalized, and then we will go before rating. When we did this in 2013, that was your $42 million bond issue. At that time, the market said you need to have 2 bond ratings. And so we went before Moody's Investor Services and Standard & Poor's, and you got rated A+ and A1, which that they're equivalent. In the environment that we're in today, we think we only need to get 1 rating, and both of them are the same. One is not more credit worthy than the other one. So we see no reason why your A+ or A1 rating would still not be maintained. Once we receive that rating, we will put that on the offering document, and we will send it out a week in advance of the sale date, which based on this calendar, we have that sale date as August the 2nd, which of course that would be a regular council meeting. And so we would meet with the mayor in that morning to go through the pricing of the bond issues. And then about 10 o'clock, we would turn our sales force loose for about an hour and a half. They would sell and market the bonds, and then we would be back here before you all that evening to approve a bond ordinance. Once the bond ordinance is approved, then we have to go into what is called a 30-day referendum period. We can't close for 30 days after it's published, and that's where we have the ordinance being published on the 11th, and then we would close on September the 15th. When you take a look at your tax collections, in 2013, you were at about $3,980,000. 14 went from about $3,965,000, and then in 15, you grew to $4,133,000, $4,373,000, $4,005,000, and then in 2020, it was $5.6 million. 2019 was right under 5. It was $4,995,000. So your tax collections have grown very nicely and have been strong collections, which has paid down your 13 issue and the 16 issue, which has gotten you all more equity, which is what's helping you, along with the lower interest rates, raise that $56, $57 million.
Thank you, Jack. And also, like I said, the projects, we're still not completely on a list. Of course, we want the people of the city to be involved, and that's why we're going to have town hall meetings starting on the 22nd after our council meeting for those that want to come and hear about our ideas or what ideas they have. And, it's just various things that we can put on there. We can have as many questions as we want.
That's correct.
On the issues. So if we have 20 questions for 20 items, we can do it.
You sure can.
So that's just something we can decide as a group or as a city of what we want to put on here or what our citizens want.
And this timeline can be adjusted to meet your all's needs. And so just know it's preliminary, but we can adjust it anytime we need to, as long as it meets the needs of you all in the city of Cabot. Any questions?
Now's your time. We've got Jack here in front of us. We've got plenty of time.
And Ed, do you want to tell them what this legislation does that we have here to talk about? Just that.
This just kicks the trigger off where that Jack and the mayor can start working together to find out what's going on with this, to find out if the potential offering is viable or anything. We already know that it probably is. They always have been in the past. The voters have been very generous about going in and reauthorizing this tax. This is not an additional tax. It is reauthorization of a current tax that is on there, so there is no change in what you'll pay at the grocery store or anything like that. It is what has been done. The issue that we have here in Cabot is that people are becoming more and more loyal to the vendors in Cabot, and our tax rates our tax collections are getting to be better and better. The authorization of the internet tax helped tremendously for us, and we are able then to retire these early and refinance it. It's just simply the best way I can describe it is like refinancing your house and taking equity out. It's what it boils down to. It's a little more complicated than that, but really not much. So what we're asking tonight is for this to be authorized so that we can start these talks and kick this timeline off and see if the people want to do it or not. Without this, we can't do that.
And what I would also add, the way this is structured, this is what we call a mandatory redemption bond. So the total tax collections that are generated all go to pay off the loan. So when we look at a state of maturity, when Leanne and I put these numbers together, our state of maturity is 2051. But based on your current tax collections before any growth, it would pay off in 2039. And so in 5 and then again in 13, they both paid down faster than what our projections were. So the city won't ever even see the tax collections. They'll just go straight to the trustee. The trustee will make the bond payments, and then with what we call the surplus tax collections, we'll redeem bonds, and they redeem the longer maturities first because those typically have the higher interest rate, so they'll pay down the higher interest rate bonds faster, and so that's what allows you to have that prepayment. So again, your current bonds are scheduled to pay off in 2025, so it's about a 13.5 to 14-year extension before any additional growth in your tax collections.
Could you tell them if the rates were to stay the same like they are now, kind of what rate we're looking at?
If rates stay in the same level, kind of a combined of this whole issue, we're looking at a true interest cost of 2.15%. An all-inclusive cost, which takes into consideration, that's the all-inclusive cost is 2.15. The true interest cost would be 2.06 if rates stay where they are. So we have an incentive to try to get everything done as quick as we can. And what we'll do, of course, is keep the mayor updated and informed on what interest rates are doing. We've got a publication that we put together weekly that we'll send him, so he'll know exactly what rates are doing, and he can be able to answer any questions from you all regarding that, or we can always come back and give a rate report anytime we're needed.
Jay, do you have the interest rates on those two issues that we'll be redeeming?
Yes, sir, I do. On the 2013 issue, I'm going to go from, if it's okay if I go from where we are now, 2021, the rate was 4%, and then it went out, let's go yields. The yields were 2.1% out to where we are now, 3.625%. The yields on the 2016 issue, from 22, we are at 1.85 out to 2.375. And so the yields that we're looking at today, we're looking at yields of 0.311 out to 2.125.
Also, our bonds sell always have, predict they always will.
Yes, sir.
Our bonds sell quickly. People seem to like to buy Cabot bonds because they know that we stand good for it and generally redeem them early as a general rule.
Sales tax collections, you've got a great history, and so that's a predictable source of revenue for the investor, and you're absolutely correct. Because of that predictable source of revenue, we have never had an issue with selling Cabot's bonds, that they are very well received in the marketplace. And I think that's a direct result of your A+ and your A1 rating.
Anything else? This is your time, guys.
Hey, Ed, I just have a quick question. I know Ken said that he shared a kind of a list with some of y'all, but I don't know if that was before the new members got on, but can you share that again?
Yes, that was before the new members. It was about a year ago.
If we pass this legislation on to be passed, this will start the process in earnest. It's absolutely essential on these things. The last big one that we had, I think we ended up with 5 meetings or something like that across the city. Had quite a bit of input, quite a bit of turnout on it, and it was absolutely necessary to make it work, and it worked.
On both those elections, you all had multiple items each time, and each item passed at a very good percentage rate.
Yeah, we've never had an item fail yet since we started this process. All right, anything else? If not, I'm getting ready to find out what the council wants to do. All right.
Thank you all very much.
Jack, thank you. Leanne, thank you for showing up with him. Appreciate it. Keep him straight, get him back home. Next item is to find out what we want to do with this. What's the recommendation of the committee?
I'd make a motion that we move it on to full council.
I second.
Okay, I've got a motion and second to move to full council. Now that gives me an opportunity to say this. Since we have a lot of these items that are backing up right behind us on the meeting or regular council meeting that we have got called, it will be here in a minute. This is going to be a little different the way we're going to have to start doing things. Go ahead and call for a vote to move it to the council, but understand that any member that wants to, whenever we convene the next council meeting, has the opportunity to ask that something be tabled or whatever they might need to do. If they need more study on it, if they're not comfortable with it, speak up. But the way that we're working this now, we'll do the same procedure, but it will show up on the agenda that it is assigned to. So I have a motion and a second to move this to the council. The members vote.
Long.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Red.
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Okay, Mayor, move it forward to the agenda, please, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, our next item is authorization for renewal of the health contract. Mr. Joe Gunderman.
For y'all that have been on the council and for y'all that are on the newcomers, let me kind of bring y'all up to speed. We did a RFQ for our engineering on-call services. We went through several RFQs, and the staff and the council deemed that Half Associates was the most responsible, the most qualified firm for that task. The way the contract is written now, that at the end of each year we have to bring it back to the council to renew and extend that agreement for one more year.
I'm assuming you're happy with them and the mayor's happy with them, or we wouldn't be seeing this.
I've got 0 complaints. They have, as far as I'm concerned, gone above and beyond our requests and our needs over the past year.
Any member got any questions for Joe on this? Joe, you have anybody from half up there on the wall?
Yes, I do. I have Mr. Brian Vines. He is our project manager. He is in attendance.
Okay. Brian, you have anything to say? Okay, thank you. I like that. Thank you. All right. You've heard Joe's presentation. Mayor, you have any comments to make on it?
No, sir. Just ask for a positive approval.
All right. I need a motion and a second, please. I have a motion from James and a second from Stephen. Stephen, is that you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Motion and second to move to full council. Members will vote.
Long,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Red,
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think that was great. All right, the next thing is our UDC amendments again, and I think probably Chad may have something to say about this. I don't know if he will or not, but Laura, you want to start us out?
I don't have any comments other than we discussed them. Laura presented them at the Planning Commission meeting, and we were all in agreement that those were good changes to add to the UDC, addressing some outdoor recreation and indoor recreational type uses. So I can let Laura expound on any of those, but the Planning Commission had full support of those.
Basically, if these been in place before, we would not have had to have that special use permit that we issued for the paintball facility. Is that correct, Laura?
Yes, and just to reiterate on that, we did have somebody last year that came to the Planning Commission for a special use permit in order to operate in an industrial park for a paintball facility. They were going to have rock climbing. That deal fell through. But to follow through with the special permit or special use permit, we needed to update the UDC to allow those type of facilities in the city. So what I've gone and done in the table of permitted uses, when I do these codes, I show you all the current code, and then in red, I show you all the revised code. So I've added two units that would be considered uses for businesses to come and be classified in the city of Cabot. I added a unit called recreational facility indoor and recreational facility outdoor. I've also, on the table of permitted uses, I've added them as well to show the categories where they would be outright able to go in there into that zoning district. And then I have added a section to where they would need a special use permit that they would have to get if they wanted. The indoor would have to have a special use permit into a C1 zone, and then they would just outright be able to come into a C2, C3, or industrial. The recreational facility outdoor would need a special use permit under the C2 category, and then outright be able to come into a C3 or an industrial. We've had a few businesses that we don't have anywhere to place them. So this categorizes, we already have a bowling alley here. This our fitness centers, the skating rink, those type of facilities will now have their own use for us to be easier to categorize them.
Okay, again, Chad, the Planning Commission had no objections to any of this. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
And Laura, you haven't had any negative feedback on it?
No, sir.
All right. The City Council's position here tonight is largely ministerial whenever it comes to this action. The public hearings and all the other items like that have been handled at the Planning Commission level where they should be. So I'll need a motion and a second to send it on for action.
And I'm not asking for this to be even heard at tonight's council meeting after this. I'm asking for this to be heard at the next
On the
city council on the
20
22nd, I believe it is.
Okay. And you're not asking for any waivers or anything
sir.
like that? Just normal business, put it in normal business, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I make a motion that we send it to full council.
Maggie, thank you. I need a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Members vote.
Long,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Red,
Yes.
Coat.
Yes.
Laura, thank you. Chad, thanks a bunch, buddy.
Thank you.
Next
sir.
is a purchase of property presented by Ken Kincaid
Thank
and
you,
Mike
Chad.
Wheeler.
Mike, if you'd come up. This is something that Mike and I have been working on along with Ed Long, and this is just a letter of intent. Of course, it has to be approved by all of you here. It's the property and building structures at 2102 South 2nd Street. It's right now where the animal service we're renting, and that we put $34,000 worth of donated funds improvements to the building. In addition, what our plan was to the building behind it's a nice barn that we're putting improvements to, and Mike has spoke with Travis, but his commission's got to approve it, but some sharing on that being another event center for arrangements, birthdays, weddings, etc. Barn type atmosphere that outside of town with the Terry, what's it called, the Terry Hot? No, is that right? The one out 89, 107, the big barn. Bellaterra. Thank you, Maggie. So this will be a smaller Bellaterra, but it'll be something very handy that we can use. But Mike, go ahead and tell them anything else about this property and how it will fit into animal services and community services.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor said, this is a facility we've been in since last February, renting. It has come up on the market, and we've been offered to purchase the property at what we believe is a very good purchase price. It's the front building, as the mayor said, we operate all of our animal services programming out of. The 25 new programs we put in for the citizens of Cabot last year, all of that is operated out of this building. It can't be operated out of the animal shelter. We don't have room down there for it. So it's important that we have a space for this. So I do appreciate y'all's consideration on it. The building in the back, as the mayor said, it's a very nice property. What I've worked with Parks and Rec through Travis. He's going to go to the commission with it if this is approved. We have this great facility here for Parks and Rec, but they don't have anything with an inside-outside venue, and this will give that option to the citizens of Cabot, and along with that, bring income in to Parks and Rec and to the city to help subsidize and pay back any of this money that was spent here. And I'm answering any questions anybody may have.
The mayor mentioned that y'all have already done $35,000 worth of work.
The animal shelter, through our donors, we put $34,000 worth of renovation in the front building.
And what were some of those, Mike?
We put in a new heat and air unit out in the garage area of the front building, all new drywall, small plumbing, things of that nature. We had to totally rip out all of the insulation, the old drywall and boards that were in there, and all the flooring and everything.
I think if people aren't familiar with the address, it's Dr. Martin's old
Dr. Martin's old office.
vet
That's
clinic.
correct. Yes. And that was 100% donor funded.
How much money do you think it's going to take to get that barn?
We estimate about $115,000. The barn's in great shape. There will be a couple of interior walls that need to be removed, and a 20 by 70 row of garage area up front that has to be come down, and then a privacy, wooden fence put around it. Other than that, it's in pretty good shape. And that's why on your documentation here for later, if you so choose for it to go forward. Instead of the 235 authorization, it's 350, because it's 115,000 for the renovations. Yes.
So that 115 is all going to go toward that rear building? There aren't going to be any funds used to renovate the front building?
The front building doesn't need any renovations for what we're utilizing it for. All the renovations were made. The only thing we'll have to do up front is some parking lot, which will be included in this, and possibly remove a couple trees. But the building up front is set up as we need it for the current use.
Do you have a plan if Parks and Rec says no?
Parks and Rec says no, then we'll manage it ourselves. It's just something there. Parks and Rec is better set up to manage than we are, with their already in the event center space, already understand the cleanups, the setups, the tear downs, things of that.
Well, they already have a staff for that.
Yes,
yeah.
and they have staff, and they wouldn't have to hire additional staff, which would be good.
We're just trying to revenue share.
Yeah, we're just going to, they collect some, we collect some, and just split it.
Anybody else? Those are great questions. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Matt. Those are really great questions on that. Also, one of the programs that he is running out there, Mike, I'm going to go ahead and tell. He gets a trailer truck full of dog food in about every, 6 weeks on an average, or a little less than?
We're going to receive 5 by the middle of March. 5 18-wheelers, in which Councilman here is referring to Greater Good, national organization. They were only in the human food space for donated human food. They've now started with pet food for those who can't afford pet food. And in this time of COVID, they found a lot of cities, a lot of rescues, a lot of animal shelters that are in need of support. So what they've done is they've chosen Cabot as their distribution point for all of Arkansas. So far we've gotten in 2 18-wheeler loads of dog and cat food, we've only got 6 pallets left for delivery. Next week we'll get 15 pallets of canned cat food, and then we still have 2 more semi-loads, anywhere from 20 to 40 pallets that'll be in the next month for us to distribute to, and we've distributed all the way to West Memphis. So not us bringing it to them, but they come to our place and pick it up. So.
And it has a great area attached to that ironically holds what he needs. There's a concrete pad out there for loading. We do not move it. We don't unload it, or we don't distribute it. People come to us to get it, as I understand it. Is that correct?
That's correct. We simply unload it off the tractor trailer, store it in the garage area, and then we load it on their trailers or in the back of their pickup when they bring it. Greater Good has issued us a $2,500 grant, which is paid for the forklift we're utilizing. So there's been no funding from the city on this other than name recognition. With that, we've also been approved, we just got approved for a $10,000 foster marketing makeover grant that they're working with us on, and they're sending us multiple other pallets of supplies that we can utilize at our shelter. So it's been a good benefit to us as well.
Now, if I did not misunderstand Mike the other day when I was visiting with him on that, he directly ties that $10,000 grant into us being able to help these people and take this food and be a distributing point for them. If that is in fact what I understood
That
you
is
to
correct.
say.
These are grants that we didn't go out and seek. These are grants that after we said yes to assisting them in the state of Arkansas, that they reached out to us and said, we have this grant available, we're going to invite you to apply for it. Invitation grants, as many of you know, are hard to come by. So when you're invited because of what you're doing in the community and doing for them, it's almost a guarantee you get them, and we did get the approval on that one.
So the direct results back to Cabot has been substantial for
Yes,
3 or
sir.
4 month commitment.
Most
We can do that. We do that all the time. Anybody got any other questions on this?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I don't think Mr. Wheeler gets enough credit for all the programs and projects that he works on for Cabot, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, it takes a team, including y'all, so we appreciate it.
Anybody else? If not, I'm going to call for a motion and a second.
James.
Second.
Motion and second to move it to the full council. Members will vote.
Long,
Yes, ma'am.
Reed,
Yes.
Red,
Yes.
Coat,
Yes.
Mayor, that's the last item on my agenda. Again, I would like to hold the municipal services input to the end of this agenda so that everybody can have all the input at once.
Yes, sir. May I continue with the budget and personnel? You good? Okay, next item, budget and personnel. Chairman Weber. Go ahead, Matt.
All right, I think everyone should have received a copy of the audit from this last year, and because I am nowhere qualified to speak to this, I'm going to go ahead and turn the mic over to Mr. Aldridge and let him speak to this, and then we'll open it up for questions after he's done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor Kincaid, council members, my name is Calvin Aldridge.
Mr. Aldridge.
I'm a
Mr. Aldridge, would you mind using that mic? So,
Sure.
I'm sorry, the people watching can't hear you. Thank you, sir.
My name's Calvin Aldridge. I'm a CPA. I work with Ellis Tucker and Aldridge. We have an office in Little Rock and in Cabot. I would like to recognize Jeff Green back here. Jeff is the manager of the Cabot office and does a lot of governmental work. We have worked for the city on various projects and provide different services. Tonight, we have been asked to review the annual audit performed by the State of Arkansas Division of Legislative Audit. We didn't do the audit. We're just helping you understand what they're saying. So that's what our goal is tonight. I will say this on the front end. This is a great report. I mean, it's basically the same language as last year in terms of the audit opinion, which is what we really focus on. When I pick up an audit from another auditor, I look at that audit opinion first thing. But for the average person that picks one of these up and reads it, there's a few things you got to know to not overreact to some of the things in this audit opinion. For example, and I'm on basically the first page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs down, it says basis for adverse opinion. Well, that doesn't really sound like a good thing. But it says basis for an adverse opinion on U.S. generally accepted accounting principles. U.S. generally accepted accounting principles are established by the Governmental Auditing Standards Board. And it's quite a bit different from the method that you use. So in this report, the legislative auditor says you're not, our opinion is you're not in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And that sounds bad. But the overwhelming majority of governmental entities in Arkansas adopt the regulatory basis. And it's important as council members that you understand the differences in those, and I'll go over those a little bit as we go through it. The more important thing immediately is that at the top of page 2, an unmodified opinion means that it's a standard opinion that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. And so I'm just going to read a little bit of that to you. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the regulatory basis, financial position, the general fund, the street fund, and other funds in the aggregate of the city of Cabot, Arkansas. as of December 31st, 2019, the regulatory basis, revenues, expenditures, and changes in net position, and the budgetary comparisons for the general fund and street fund for the year then ended in accordance with the financial reporting provisions of Arkansas Code Annotated 10-4-412 as described in Note 1. What does that mean? You're preparing financial statements in accordance with state law, and that's what you want to do. You want to do what's right. But there are some things in it that you need to be aware of that are not items to be conscious of. There is some supplemental information in here. Generally, I'm going to go now to page 3. Generally, when I'm looking at an audit, I want to look at the internal control over the financial statements. And in there, if the auditor finds a deficiency in internal control, he busts out the entity being audited by stating that there is one and explaining it. In paragraph 4, it states, given these limitations during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. However, material weaknesses may exist that have not been identified. That's standard language for a great report on your internal control. It's identical to the prior year. The next section of paragraph 5, compliance and other matters. I'm just going to read to you the last sentence of that paragraph. The results of our test disclose no instances of noncompliance or other matters that are required to be reported under government auditing standards. So all cheers there in both the internal control area and in the compliance area, and of course in the presentation of the financial statements on the regulatory basis. There is a management letter in here, and I'm going to read from it. It's on page 5, and to use some wording in the second sentence, the purpose of such comment is to provide constructive feedback and guidance in an effort to assist management to maintain a satisfactory level of compliance with state constitution, laws, and regulations, and to improve internal control. And it states an item that they're strongly recommending is that the district court district court deposits were not made on a timely basis as required by Arkansas Code Annotated 1610-209. And it would be my thinking that if that's not corrected by the court clerk by this time next year, it may move to a compliance issue in the audit. So I know that's been addressed. They're stated it in here, and they're kind of giving you a heads up that this is important to make sure that that's cleaned up before next year. So great report, and the finances look real good also. Now I want to turn to page 6 and then just kind of go over a little bit of the finances just to highlight the things that aren't included in these financial statements. When you look at general street and other funds in the aggregate, the reason they're separated like that is the law tells you what you have to do with the funds, and you can't take some from this fund and put in another one unless you go by the proper procedures. As you can see there, general fund had 2.5 million, street 400,000, other funds in the aggregate 8.4 million. Wow, you had, and that's total assets. You had 6.5 million of cash, but you know what? 71% of it is in these other funds in the aggregate. In other words, it's already been earmarked, and you have to kind of be aware of that and take note of it. And I know that those of you that have been on the council a while do. Now, when we get down here to the liabilities, isn't it great? You only have 586 in general, 53 in street, and 182 in other funds. Well, that's not the whole story. You just heard from Jack back here that you've got some bonds, 34, 35 million worth at the end of 19. They're not in these financial statements. The regulatory basis is interested and focused more on resources. What have I got right now that I can use? And so it doesn't require you to report these debts in the face of your balance sheet, whereas most businesses would be expecting all their debt to be right out there in front of you. Promissory notes, you got $1.5 million. Now, all of this is in the footnotes, but we want a simple photograph of what the finances are. When we look at this, we might not realize that there's other debt out there, and that's the point I'm trying to make in this. Because the regulatory basis does not require that the long-term debt be presented. The promissory notes are right at $1.6 million. This is at the end of 19. They've come down quite a bit since then. Revenues do look great as far as trends. Also, if you see the other items I wanted to get out there and is that your funding for your retirement plans is not on here as a liability. Those are significant, and there is all across the nation, the governmental entities are becoming more focused on that. If you'll read your footnote, police and fire, your share of the debt of the future liability on the police and fire pension is over $9 million. Now, it's not due next year, and it's not due the year after, but if the city stopped having any funding of any type, that's how much the city would owe over that time period. And APERS, the Arkansas pension fund that a lot of the employees are on, is $5.4 million. That's not in these financial statements. And then, as the auditor pointed out, there's also roughly $937,000 of accrued vacation and sick pay that's not recorded in these financial statements. So I don't want to paint it's a great audit, but I want you to be aware that there are other liabilities out there that you've got to consider. You've got to read the detail, and you've got a good resource in having a mayor that's a CPA and also a clerk that's been around the block a time or two, and she watches this stuff pretty closely. But a great report, regulatory basis, like I say, it's a focus on immediate resources that you have available, and I think the city has a future ahead of it in terms of being able to provide services. With that, I'll conclude my remarks, unless there's some questions that you may have that you would like addressed from the podium here. If not, hearing none, I'll stand down and appreciate the chance to come and talk with you this evening.
Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you, Mr. Aldridge. Any additional comments that you'd like to make, Mayor or Ms. Tammy?
No, the report speaks for itself.
Okay.
Very strong.
Any questions or comments by the committee members?
I wanted to thank Tammy and her team. They did an excellent job on that report.
Thank you.
Anything? Any other council members with questions or comments? All right. If not, then that's all I have, Mayor, unless there's some other business for budget and personnel.
I don't have any, sir. And we'll move your input to the end with everybody else's?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you again, Mr. Aldridge.
Police and Fire Committee next, Chairman James Reed. James?
Thank you, Mayor. Our first agenda item is to discuss approval of destruction of outdated documents, and I'd like to call Captain Scott Steely to give us a review of that.
All right, the police department's requesting a resolution tonight for destruction of public records. We currently hold police reports, jail reports, accident reports. We hold them for a period of 7 years. This is an annual request that we make about this time every year. We're just looking for the resolution to destroy these records.
Is there any question from the council? Thank you, Captain Steele. I'd entertain a motion to accept.
I make the motion that we send it.
I second.
Have a motion from Cope and a second from Hillebrand to accept the resolution. Roll call vote, please.
Reed,
Yes.
Hillenberg,
Yes.
Red,
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Now we'll move on to City Council.
James, you good?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move police and fire community input to the end as well. Next item, Chairman Ed Long, Community Development Committee.
We do not have a formal presentation of anything tonight. I know that Amy has been taking individual council members around and kind of introducing them to what we have out there and answering individual questions during that tour. I have no idea how far she has made it in that process. So, Mayor, I want to suspend anything that we might have tonight until I make sure that she has completed that process, and then we'll have a presentation of some sort at that point.
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome, sir.
Next item, Military Affairs Committee, Chairman Ron Waymack.
Mayor, we have nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Nothing in Military Affairs. Next item is General Community Input. If anyone has anything to address the council, please do now.
Mr. Mayor, I have something.
Go ahead.
And this is probably addressed to Ed in municipal services. I've been contacted by several contractors on new construction. We've had an increase of up to 10 cents square footage on new construction permits, and I'm just kind of wondering how we got to that, who's in control of it, and what was the purpose for the increase on the permits for new construction.
Sure. Laura, you want to explain what that process was put in place by some previous councils?
I think it was Joe's deal until he...
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Mayor.
That's okay.
I think that was right before Laura
Why don't you both come up?
took the helm, but I think they both need to be up there.
Brandon, how we got here is kind of simple. We were stuck at a specific rate for years, Ed. I wouldn't even begin to recall back the last time that we had a change in our permit fees since the last time we did it. When we did it, and Brandon, I remember you having some good input on this, we were going from one rate to another, and instead of doing it at one fell swoop, we kind of cut it in half to do half one year and then the half after. We spent months going with other cities, talking with them, looking at where they were, cities comparable to Cabot, and we found out that we were drastically lower than almost everybody around us. Some of the examples were on plumbing permits, we were at 3 and 5 cents a square foot. Other cities were at 9 and 11 cents a square foot. Also, you got to take into consideration what it takes to get these inspections performed. Paying qualified city inspectors does not come cheap, as we all see. We got multiple trips out there, fuel prices going up, equipment that's needed for the inspections, and Laura can attest to that, that it was, that department has never been geared to be a big money maker for the city, but it was getting to where it was losing a lot of money because we were so far behind what everybody else around us was doing as far as permit fees.
My understanding, Joe, is that 10 cents for building and all mechanicals. So for the contractor and then plumbing, HVAC, and electrical, everybody's 10 cents across the board.
The way cities do their permitting varies. You've got your overall building permit fee, which is basically everybody does it off square footage. Then you've got the plumbing permit fee, which is paid for by the plumber. Electricity, electricians paid electrical, heat and air, and so on. So each one of those are separate. We kind of went with about what everybody else around us was doing, not only on the subcontractors' permit fees, but also on the square footage for residential and commercial. I know that in the city of Little Rock, we are still behind them, which, naturally we can't compete with them, but we wanted to be in the same competitive market as Conway, Searcy, Benton, Bright, Sherwood, Jacksonville. Cabot will never be Northwest or Northeast Arkansas, and we're not trying to be them. We're just trying to stay competitive with everybody else.
And first, I want to commend y'all at Public Works. Y'all do a phenomenal job. I work very closely with y'all. But it concerns me because I took a couple samples myself. I reached out to Sherwood. I reached out to Conway. I reached out to Searcy. And you're incorrect. We are the highest this side of the river. So cities that are the size, and my point is I want to be able to tell them where's the extra money going. If it's going for software or something to make Public Works more streamlined, I can get behind that. But just a 10-cent flat rate on total square footage is concerning when I go to Sherwood and I'm paying 2 cents. And then Searcy is a $50 flat fee for new construction, plus $15 for extra unit. So I kind of pulled a sample for cities that are our size, and we're higher than they are. So I'm just trying to justify when somebody calls me and says, hey, Brandon, why are we paying this extra money? I want to know, hey, it's going to roads, it's going to infrastructure, it's going to build the Public Works program. I'm just looking for the whys.
Just out of curiosity, you said Searcy was at 2 cents a square foot?
Sherwood is at
Sherwood.
2 cents. And with that being said,
is that on electric, plumbing, or which one is that on? I'm just curious.
HVAC is 2 cents, electrical and plumbing is 3 cents. And the builder permit is higher. They're making the builders pay a higher rate. They're not just flat rating at 10 cents across the board. And I just want Cabot to be competitive. I come from the background, less regulations, less taxation stimulates growth. I don't want builders going to Sherwood. I want Cabot to be their #1 choice to build homes. And I've been asked several times, had several phone calls, and I just wanted to reach out to y'all and ask the whys.
Well, 2 cents a square foot, it's kind of odd because, that's on a 3,000 square foot house, that's, it's going to cost $40 to $50 our inspectors' time, fuel, and everything to go out there. So I don't, they are giving them away down there.
Right. Well, and my understanding is, 3,000 square foot under roof, that's not realistic. But let's say a 2,000 square foot house, that's pretty popular. That's 1,500 heated and cooled, with about a 450 garage. You're looking at $200 permit for builder, $200 for HVAC, $200 for plumber, and $200 for electrician. That's $800. That's some chunk change. And that chunk change goes to the homeowner because we know that the contractor's going to pass it right on to the home buyer. And it's a tax. So I just want to know where it's going.
Right.
Well,
now,
Joe.
I'm going to turn it over to Laura, but not only on the inspections, you've also got, the inspector has to take the time to review those plans, to review everything for setbacks on the plot plan and everything. So there's a lot more inside the office that goes on, and I can let her better explain what they do.
You just need to give him the budget. Because
I'm
all those fees go to Public Works, and Public Works loses money every year. So he just needs a
that
copy of
money,
the budget.
I can promise you, it doesn't go to street and infrastructure.
No, it stays in Public Works, and we lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
We lose a lot of money in Public Works.
But losing money doesn't always mean we should run business off, though.
I agree, but
And Brandon, I'll tell you that we get phone calls weekly from contractors that will tell them how much their permit is, and they'll say, that's all it is? Well, y'all are cheaper than Little Rock, or y'all are cheaper than North Little Rock. It's twice as much as they are. I get those calls every week.
That's what I need to know.
basically, I seriously give him a copy of the budget so he can see how we're spending our money. He needs to know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please.
Thank y'all.
You're welcome, Brandon. Any other comments? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, Stephen. Got a second from James, a first from Stephen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn 7:31. We'll take a 5-minute potty break, and then we'll go into our Cabot City Council meeting. We're going to call the Cabot City Council meeting to order. If you'd please stand with me, Michael Jones going to say the opening prayer. Yes, you need to. And then Maggie Cope will do our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you all for letting us gather here tonight in community with one another, and we ask that as we continue our deliberations here, that you fill those deliberations with grace and our resolutions with peace. We thank you for all the blessings that you grant us in our daily lives. In your name we pray, amen.
If you'll face the flag with me, I pledge allegiance.
Thank you, Michael, Maggie. Everyone can be seated. Roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Long,
Here.
Jones,
Here.
Red,
Here.
Hillenberg.
Here.
Cope,
Here.
Reed,
Here.
Weber,
Here.
Waymack.
Here.
Thank you, Tammy. All are present. Next item is read ordinances and resolutions by title only. Any action?
Make a motion to read ordinances and resolutions by title only.
I second.
I got a motion by Matt, a second by Brandon, to read ordinances and resolutions by title only. Any discussion? Do we have any action? Seeing none, we'll move to item B.
Resolution number 3 of 2021, a resolution approving the destruction of certain outdated documents of the Cabot Police Department and for other purposes.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion we adopt resolution number 3 of 2021.
I'll second.
I got a motion from Ed, a second from James, to approve resolution number 3 of 2021. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Cope,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Waymack,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Red,
Yes.
Hillenberg.
Yes.
Thank you, Tammy. Next item will be tabled. Do we need to read that first, Ben, and then table it? Yes, sir, we do. Okay, Tammy, resolution 4 of 2021.
A resolution appointing Ashley Little to the Cabot Parks and Recreation Commission and for other purposes.
Mayor, I make a motion that resolution number 4, 2021 be tabled to the February 22nd meeting.
Thank you, Ed. I got a motion from Ed, a second from James, to table resolution 4 of 2021 until the February 22nd meeting. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Hillenberg,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Waymack,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Red.
Yes.
Passes 8-0. Next item, item D, is resolution number 5 of 2021. Tammy?
Number 5 of 2021, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk treasurer to enter into agreement with Stevens regarding financial and related services pertaining to the offering of bonds, prescribing other matters pertaining thereto, and for other purposes.
Make a motion to approve resolution 5 of 2021.
A second.
I got a motion from Matt, a second by Michael, to approve resolution number 5 of 2021. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Red,
Yes.
Hillenberg,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Waymack,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Passes 8-0. Next item, resolution number 6 of 2021.
a resolution to renew the agreement with Half Associates, Inc. for civil engineering and other related professional services and for other purposes.
Make a motion we adopt resolution number 6 of 2021.
I second.
I got a motion by Ed, a second by Brandon Hillenberg to adopt resolution number 6 of 2021. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Jones,
Yes.
Red,
Yes.
Hillenberg,
Yes.
Coe,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Waymack,
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Passes 8-0. Item F, resolution number 7 of 2021, Tammy.
A resolution to authorize the mayor and city clerk treasurer to enter into agreement to purchase the real property and buildings located at 2102 South Second Street to amend the 2021 annual operating budget and for other purposes.
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
I got a motion by Brandon and a second by James to approve resolution number 7 of 2021. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Long,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Red,
Yes.
Hillenberg,
Yes.
Coe,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Waymack.
Yes.
Passes 8-0. We now move into community input. If you have anything you'd like to address to the council and the mayor, please come forward, state your name, and seeing none, council, do you have anything you want to add before we adjourn?
Make a motion we adjourn.
I got a motion from Ed, a second by Ron to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned at 7:44.